Hi, I'm Richard Winger. There's one very nasty, tiny part of Prop 14 that the press has not really publicized. Under the existing law, there are two ways for a ballot-qualified party to remain on the ballot. There's a somewhat easy method and a much more difficult method. The easy method is to poll 2% of the vote for any statewide race in a midterm year. The harder test, it's an alternate test, is to have about 100,000 registrations. Because parties don't have nominees under Prop 14, the 2% vote test vanishes. And there was another top two measure in the ballot in 2004, and the people who wrote that noticed that problem. And their intent was not to throw any ballot-qualified party off the ballot. So they lowered the registration test from 1% to 1/3 of 1%. All the people who wrote Prop 14 had to do was copy that. But they didn't. They deliberately changed it. And I debated one of the attorneys who wrote Prop 14, and I asked him, why did you guys do that? And he said, I'm not going to tell you. And then he laughed and he said, ask me after Election Day, then I'll tell you.
I'm Christina Tobin, a Libertarian candidate for Secretary of State, and really have to look at the root of where something comes from. It was a Maldonado, Arnold Schwarzenegger backroom budget deal last February, no legislative hearings, and put on the ballot wrongfully. Maldonado wants to win again, it'll help him out. And Arnold Schwarzenegger with all-time low of a 23% approval rating, well, one can only wonder why. Putting things like Proposition 14 on the ballot definitely emphasizes that. One thing Richard Winger forgot to mention is it doesn't even count write-in votes. So essentially, Arnold Schwarzenegger on the 18th and 24th is holding a fundraiser, of which one will be down in LA, another one will be in San Francisco on the 24th. The Free and Equal Elections Foundation, along with all qualified parties here in California, are planning on protesting both of those fundraisers. So do hope to create a lot of exposure and create a lot of awareness to the people. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. My name is Anna Molander, and I'm chair of the Sacramento County Democratic Party. I'm here today joining my counterparts from across the political spectrum because while we may not agree on a lot of issues, we do agree on this one. Proposition 14 will limit voter choice for the majority of Californians. Whether you're an independent, Republican, Libertarian, Democrat, or Green Party member, you will ultimately see your choices reduced in the general election. Because only the top two vote getters in their primary will advance to the general election, voters in some areas will be forced to choose between 2 Democrats or 2 Republicans. Democratic voters may be faced with the choice of voting for a Republican or not voting at all. And the same would apply to Republicans in certain districts. Proposition 14 was put on the ballot as part of a backroom deal, without adequate vetting or consideration for the negative impact it will have on both large and small parties in California. This is not the way to increase voter choice in California. I stand here with Californians of all political persuasions and urge a no vote on Proposition 14 this June. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tom Del Beccaro. I'm Vice Chairman of the California Republican Party. I want to thank you all for spending your day with us here. I cannot be more emphatic in my opposition to 14 and frankly our party's opposition to 14. I think it's amazing that we're all standing here today and none of us here think Sacramento is working perfectly so it's beyond being modified. But let's be clear, there is a problem. But just because there's a problem doesn't mean you attempt willy-nilly to change it without any evidence that the system you want to put in place will actually fix it. The facts are in Washington and Louisiana. They put in a Prop 2 system. It had no impact like they're saying it would here in California. That's why today I'm calling on the Prop 14 campaign to take down and stop putting forth their misleading radio ads. they point blank say this will increase voter participation. There's no evidence that it can increase voter participation in Washington. In fact, the evidence is directly opposite. They say it'll bring more reasonable-minded people to Sacramento. There's no evidence in Washington that it changed that at all. In fact, when it was tried in Washington, the number of incumbents that were reelected went up. So, if you look at their two main claims, that it will increase voter participation, the people here will tell you, in fact, that it won't. And in Washington, third-party candidates dropped from 45 to 12. That's not increasing participation, that's decreasing it. So their main 2 points, increasing voter participation, is false, there's no evidence for that, or that it will bring a different type of candidate. That's false. Where it's been tried, it's increased the number of incumbents that have been elected. So, I'm here to say that we do not junk people's rights. We do not throw away the rights of candidates to be heard or parties to be heard without a compelling reason and proof that the alternative system will actually work. In this case, the proof is that the alternative system shuts them out and doesn't achieve the goal that the people at Prop 14 said. In my view, this is classic government at work. See a problem, institutionalize it, and then make it worse. I'll say that again. See a problem, institutionalize it, and make it worse. Prop 14 will not help Californians, it will destroy people's rights, and the party is foursquare against it. Thank you very much. And we'll either have a roundup right here where she'll conclude, and then we'll have your questions. Thank you.
If you would like to have more information, first of all, I want to thank you all of our guests from all 6 qualified parties in California uniting today against Proposition 14. If you would like to see the proponents, for example, where they're getting their money from, millions of dollars from health insurance corporations, the Arnold Schwarzenegger Maldonado team, check out our website, Stop Top 2, that's Stop, T-O-P, TWO.org for more information. If you'd like to see what true electoral reform is, not top 2, but implementing instant runoff voting, proportional representation, for more information, again, please visit StopTop2, T-O-P, TWO.org. Thank you for your time today.
Are you all going to answer questions?
Sure.
Yes,
Great.
and of course, to be open to questions, my apologies, please go ahead.
May I ask a question? With the exception of the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and the American Independent Party, the other parties up here represented, none of you allow declined state voters to participate in your primary. They're the fastest growing group of voters in California. Why not? Yeah, I need you at the microphone too.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Sure.
sorry.
Answer that, please.
The Arizona Libertarian Party went to court to keep independents out of its primary. That may sound selfish, but it was perfectly rational. There were 2 competing Arizona Libertarian candidates for governor, and they were very different. And they had enough money so that they could mail to every registered Libertarian in Arizona because they wanted the voters in the primary to know what they were doing. I hate to say it, but the mainstream press generally does not cover minor party candidates in contested primaries. If the 2 candidates had been forced to mail literature to all the hundreds of thousands of registered independents in Arizona, they just couldn't have done it. And one more example, in Alaska, there was a contested Libertarian primary for governor in 1986. One of the 2 candidates got in legal trouble, she fled the state, but nobody knew it. And so, because Alaska had a blanket primary, and she was a woman, and women do have an advantage when voters don't know anything else about the candidates, she got the nomination even though the other candidate was the state chair and he was there to campaign. So it's sad, but if you don't limit the primary to people who know, to the voters who know what they're doing, it makes a mess. And it's not true that independents are the fastest growing segment of the state. They declined this year. In the January tally, they were at 20.4%. In the brand new April tally, it was 20.1%.